Hello and welcome. We are in conversation today with Professor Aijaz Ahmad, well-known political commentator and analyst on international affairs. And we are going to be talking about the political situation in Pakistan. Aijaz, the last week has seen quite momentous events, or at least what appear to be very major events in the transition of Pakistan towards democracy. Do you see this as a major landmark, or do you see this as a part of a continuing saga?
Raghu, I won't go into the long background at this point, but you see this lawyers' movement, which has been there for the restoration of the judiciary that was deposed by Musharraf, has been there all along before this government came into being, after this government came into being. When a democratically elected government took power, so the winds went out of the sails of that movement, and now in an act of virtual desperation, they decided a long march in which lawyers from all over the country, Quetta, Karachi, Multan, etc., would converge on Islamabad. The first problem was that the Zardari government tried to deal with that with a very heavy hand, and there was violence against them, which offended the middle classes, and then something very interesting happened. A senior minister like Shahri Rahman, their information minister, the IG police and a couple of other very senior officers in Lahore, a couple of civil bureaucrats refused to carry out orders and resigned. In the midst of it, Zardari overplayed his hands and dismissed the government of Shahbaz Sharif in Punjab, which brought the Sharifs, that is to say their party, into that movement. And suddenly you had a mass movement moving towards Islamabad, which panicked not only the government, but more than that, the United States and the army. The army chief is working very closely with the United States, and we know that Hillary Clinton actually called both Nawaz Sharif and Zardari.
I'd like to come to the army and the US role a little later, but for now, I would just like to pose this issue in the Pakistani media and commentary now. People are saying that this is the birth of a new democracy in Pakistan. Street power and people power has been shown in Pakistan. Do you really see this as a break from the past, or is this a transitional phase and we are not sure how far these roots have gone in Pakistani society?
You see, that's why a brief reference to the Americans and the army is very important. That it is the Americans and Ashfaq Kiani, the army chief, who forced Zardari's hands, who imposed this. And at the same time, there is obviously a bargain in which Aijaz Ahmad, who is the leader of the lawyers' movement, holds a press conference just about 4 hours after the government has restored or promised to restore the Chief Justice, and says that all these major issues having to do with the Constitution of Pakistan and its violations by Musharraf shall not be under the jurisdiction of this Chief Justice who is being restored. So there is a kind of a very broad agreement now between the United States, the Pakistan Army, the Zardari government, and Sharif. So at a very important level, this is actually consolidation or reconsolidation of the kind of power structure that the Americans and the army have been trying to build. Now, this is not to deny the immensely insurrectionary action of the the mass movement. Pakistanis are, I think, an insurrectionary people. Every 5-10 years you have these mass movements which force the hands of the government, and then all forces converge to restore the status quo ante. So in that sense, while I salute the great achievements of the mass movement, I actually see it as a restoration of...
and in terms of specifics in the weeks to come, there are still several issues pending, like the restoration of the old constitution before Musharraf's constitution, the issue of the president's powers vis-a-vis the legislature. Has the grand bargain which was struck include these aspects?
These are specifically what Aijaz Ahmad mentioned.
Yes.
That these shall not be under the purview
Of the Chief Justice.
of Iftikhar Chaudhry.
Yes.
So actually the only issue on which any ambiguity is left is the issue of the disappeared.
Right.
500, 1,000, 2,000, we don't know, but there are about documented cases of about 1,000 people who disappeared in Pakistan under Musharraf and actually disappeared into the various American gulags from Guantanamo Bay to Bagram Base and so on. And the Chief Justice, his essential crime for which he was dismissed was that he was looking into all of that, and at that time Mr. Kiani was the head of the ISI, and he had threatened to call Mr. Kiani to court to account for all of this. This Aijaz Ahmad's press conference does not mention. So basically what we have is that the outstanding issues of the relating to the Constitution, they are saying, will be addressed by the Parliament and not by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Whether or not this issue will be taken up by Iftikhar Chaudhry, we shall see.
Right. And also in the short to medium term, now that the Prime Minister and the Parliament, the PPP and Nawaz Sharif have reached some understanding on these issues, are we likely to see a continuation of the coalition politics for some more time before the two parties revert to their natural opposition to each other in the evolution of the democratic polity in Pakistan?
First of all, I think Zardari has been decisively weakened.
Right.
You will recall that Gilani was a compromise candidate. A compromise had been reached between Sharif's party and Zardari personally, that in lieu of the ability of the Sharif brothers to form government in Lahore, they will accept a prime minister. The PPP will have the right to appoint the prime minister, but one that is acceptable to Nawaz Sharif. So in a sense, Gilani owes his premiership to Nawaz Sharif.
That's right.
So what has happened is that Gilani and the forces he represents within the PPP and Nawaz Sharif have been strengthened at Zardari's expense. Now, how this plays out, I don't know. Pakistani politics in these matters tend to be highly volatile. So I don't expect sort of a peaceful cohabitation between these two political parties.
Right. I think we'll break our conversation at this stage, and in a second segment I'd like to take up the issue of the role of the army in this, and in that connection the role of the United States in the Pakistani polity in the years to come.